Hey guys, Fred Wellman of the MeidasTouch Network, host of On Democracy, the FP Wellman, with you on the road today. You know, there's going to be a lot of talk about Tommy Tuberville's appearance on CNN on Monday, where he once again said that white nationalists aren't racist, where he once again defended his stance about not promoting the generals. But I also want to highlight another character that appeared on CNN on Monday with Caitlin Collins, and that's Virginia's Governor Glenn Youngkin. Now, you know Glenn Youngkin from his campaign for governor against Terry McAuliffe in 2021, where, he famously wore a red fleece finance bro vest every day. I mean, it was his whole thing was the brow. I think there was an actual Twitter account about Glenn Youngkin's vest, and that was his campaign. And he beat Terry McAuliffe, who was on his second try as governor, which I'll explain later. And Terry, didn't run the greatest campaign, let's be honest. Now, the word of the streets is that Glenn Youngkin was able to scare the Northern Virginia suburb moms into CRT fear and hysteria, and that's how he won. But the real truth is he actually also won it because many Democrats out in rural counties of Virginia simply didn't vote. Counties that should have had 30% turnout only had 20% turnout. And you can't do that in 100 counties and win. So we could discuss that. But this myth arose where Glenn Youngkin was this kingmaker, that he had won just 1 year after Biden had won. He'd won a purple state. Republicans had not won statewide office in Virginia in something like 9 years at that point. So him winning was a bit of an earthquake here in Virginia. And the thing is, though, it's led to a lot of speculation for like almost a year. So here's the interesting thing about Virginia. The governor can only serve one term, one consecutive term. It's an old Virginia thing. Don't forget, Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia is one of our oldest states. Old colony's been around for a long time. And that's the rule, hence why Terry McAuliffe had to run again 4 years after he'd been governor previously. So Glenn Youngkin's got one term, then he's out. So immediately you're looking for your next job. And so there's been a lot of speculation because DeSantis is stumbling. Trump is Trump. And so a lot of the big Republican donor class is looking for a replacement for DeSantis or anyone. The desperation is palpable. And one of the big names coming up quite a bit is Glenn Youngkin. Now, Glenn shares a strategist, a guy named Jeff Rowe, who you can look up, with DeSantis. He's running DeSantis' strategy. But right now, there's a lot of talk about Glenn Youngkin, leading to this question Monday night from Caitlin Collins and some discussion the next morning on CNN about when he's asked about will he run for president.
Gave you a little preview, a little sneak peek of why he's relevant in the conversation now, especially because some have speculated with, DeSantis's campaign struggling. This is opening the door for another candidate to join. And could that be Governor Glenn Youngkin? Does he want to jump into the race? Here's what he told our very own Caitlin Collins last night.
Do you think you would be able to be a challenge to Trump?
Well, as I've said to folks, because I've been asked this question frequently, one, I'm humbled by it. When someone brings common sense to an office like a governor in Virginia, and you get a lot done, and we deliver on promises made, people pay attention. And I'm encouraged by that.
I've heard you say that you're humbled by this when people ask you about this, but you've never ruled it out.
Well, I think what is most encouraging is the frequency that people are asking because of what's going on in Virginia. And what I've constantly said is, and you just said that the Iowa caucus has been pulled forward into January. I'm not in Iowa. I'm not at state fairs.
Will you be in January?
I'm going to be in Virginia. And
in January, you will not be in Iowa.
Well, this is where you have to be, and I don't think I'll be in Iowa. I think I'm going to be in Virginia.
So Virginia is where he's going to be, is what he's saying, but still not a no.
Well, as our friends at CNN say, he doesn't say no. He's going to be in Virginia during the Iowa caucuses in January. That's not a no. But he also talks about his great accomplishments. I kind of wanted to pull that thread a lot. And then there's a second question he answers later we'll talk about. Let's talk about Glenn. He's just humble because of all of his great accomplishments. What are those accomplishments? Well, let's see. He was managed to work with the Senate. The state Senate in Virginia is led by a woman named Eloise Lucas, Miss Louise, who is the president of the Senate. She's the majority leader for the Democratic Party of Virginia. She is a human tornado. I love Miss Lucas. I just think the world of her. And she has run a brick wall. There are a lot of Glenn Youngkin's dreams have died against the brick wall that is the state Senate. But they did pass a $4 billion tax cut. He did pass, hold your seats, he passed a law stopping mandates for masks. I mean, I know this is huge. I hope you're sitting down, you hear these news, that they passed a law that stopped mask mandates. Remember those? Big stuff. And then he went on to issue an executive order banning CRT, banning something that's not actually taught in any Virginia schools. And then what got really interesting was Youngkin decided to put out a tip line where people could call in for divisive issues being taught in their schools. And it got flooded by activists and ended being shut down because the whole thing was a goddamn joke. So Youngkin's big accomplishments aren't those big. His accomplishment is talking about how great he is. I mean, seriously, that is his big thing. He's just Mr. Amazing, right? And that's got a lot of bullshit too. I mean, and so he went around quite a bit during the 2022 cycle as the kingmaker, because after all, he had just won. And I think 4 out of 5 races he endorsed out of the state didn't win. I mean, he endorsed all the nut jobs. And even in the state, I think 3 of the 4 people he endorsed within Virginia as the kingmaker also lost, include just some real nut jobs that he supported out there. This red vest, so he's not the kingmaker.
Let's stop cutting down trees to make toilet paper. I mean, it's true. Humans are cutting down tens of thousands every day just to supply the American need for toilet paper. And the worst part is that when you use trees for toilet paper, it's just one use and done. It can't be reused or recycled. It just goes straight into our water system. That's why I made the switch to real paper. Real is 100% bamboo. So we're using a plant that grows fast, can be harvested and regenerated like grass on a lawn, and doesn't impact entire ecosystems of forest. Real is the best kind of eco-friendly product because it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing something to help the earth. In fact, honestly, it feels like an upgrade. I'm really busy these days, so it's great to have it shipped free to my door in a plastic-free packaging. And I can schedule it on a subscription so that it comes exactly when I need it. And y'all, I'm super forgetful, as anyone who knows me knows, so I don't have to worry about picking it up at the store where I always forget. I'm a bit of an environmentalist myself too, so I love that Real is now a partner with One Tree Planted. And with every box of Real that you buy, they're funding reforestation efforts across the country. So unlike other toilet paper products that cuts down trees, Real is actually helping to plant trees. Now, Real paper is available in easy, hassle-free subscriptions or for one-time purposes on their website. All orders are conveniently delivered to your door with free shipping and 100% recyclable, plastic-free packaging. Now, if you head to realpaper.com/Fred, sign up for a subscription using my code FRED at the checkout, you'll automatically get 30% off your first order and free shipping. So that's realpaper.com/Fred, or just enter the promo code FRED. Get 30% off your first order plus free shipping. Let's make a change for good this year. Switch to Real paper. Real is paper for the planet.
But then it got interesting also on the interview when Caitlin Collins asked about his statements about Donald Trump's indictments. Now, again, he's talking about running against Trump. That's not going to happen. But here's what's interesting. Watch what he says about the indictments. Watch carefully how he twists the words from the question.
Indicted recently in the documents investigation. You posted a tweet saying that the charges were unprecedented. You called it a sad day for the country, and you referred to a 2-tier justice system. But now that you've seen the indictment, we've heard Trump in his own words in that audio tape. Do you still not think that he should be held accountable for what is being alleged in that indictment?
Well, let me back up and just be clear that what we've seen happen to the former president is inconsistent with what we've seen happen in other circumstances with elected officials.
Like which one?
And I think this is what folks are concerned about. There's plenty of allegations against the current Biden White House and things that have gone on there. And in Virginia, one of the things that we saw was that parents standing up at school board meetings and demanding transparency and accountability in their children's education was met by the Justice Department of the United States with accusations of being terrorists that was alleged by one of the teachers' unions. I mean, this is the inconsistency that Virginians and I believe Americans see.
They didn't answer it, right? He went from Trump's indictment, 2-tier justice system. People in Virginia are mad because parents were treated as terrorists. Okay, those aren't the same things. As far as that terrorist stuff goes, it was never true to start with. In October 2021, the DOJ issued a memo to the FBI saying, hey, we want you to coordinate with local police, set up communications in your local areas, the district offices, to address real threats. Because look, folks, don't forget, there was real crazy stuff going on at school board meetings against teachers, about CRT. Yeah, these groups started off their anti-mask stuff. Don't forget that's where it started. But Moms for Liberty started as anti-COVID lockdowns, and now they're racist and bigoted against transgender issues and everything else. So don't be fooled. Book bannings, all those things started during the pandemic. There was never any parents being called terrorists. What happened, though, the National Association, I think one of the National Associations for Educators wrote a letter to the president saying that the threats against teachers should rise to the level of domestic terrorism. They actually walked that back later using that term. They regretted using that term. And the memo that GOJ issued never said any such thing. What it said was real threats against elected officials should be investigated, and we're going to support that. The Republicans have been spinning it ever since. But here's the punch on that whole story, folks, and you know the end how this goes. The Southern Poverty Legal Center has listed many of those groups, too, including, by the way, the group that Youngkin likes to support in Northern Virginia as actual extremist groups. Moms for Liberty and about 9 other groups were listed as actual extremist, domestic extremists, because of their anti-government sentiments, because of their behaviors in public, because of their threats against elected officials. The actual things that Glenn Youngkin is trying to spin as wrong treatment of parents were actual threats against elected officials. He's defending threats against elected officials. He's got no business being president. So look, as you hear these stories about Glenn Youngkin being so different, just a good old nice guy from Virginia with his fleece vest, the truth is he's a multimillionaire who ran one of the largest investment VC firms in the country. He left that to become governor. Has dismantled anything to do with race issues in the United States. Just Virginia, just recently, I'll put the story up for you. Just recently, when the Daily Wire inquired about the fact that the state had a website that helped LGBTQ youth speak to their parents and understand and get support, when they inquired about that, his cabinet had the website dismantled. They've done this several times. Anytime a right-wing nut job asks about them trying to support LGBTQ youth in our state to lower the temperature, lower the suicide rate of these poor kids dealing with the threats they face, his administration has chosen to take down the resources and attack those kids. Glenn Youngkin's never going to be president. Glenn Youngkin has no business on the national political stage, and we're going to keep our eyes on it here on the MeidasTouch Network, because in the MeidasTouch Network, we see clearly who these guys are. And let me tell you what Glenn Youngkin is. And this is a term I'm coining, TM. I'm coining the term vanilla MAGA. Okay, that's what Glenn Youngkin is. Vanilla MAGA. Vanilla MAGA is they're MAGA, but they have a nice vest. Okay, that's Glenn Youngkin. Vanilla MAGA. But don't be fooled. They're still MAGA. They're still just as much a threat to us as they've always been. And that's Glenn Youngkin. So keep your eye on Mr. Vanilla MAGA. We'll keep an eye for you here at the MeidasTouch Network. Once again, I am Fred Wellman. I'm host of On Democracy with FP Wellman. New shows premiere every Friday night at 11. You got to catch this week. It's going to be a banger. I'm telling you right now. I can't wait to share it with you. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.